Harry's team and said, you haven't got a case to answer for, and put it in pretty strong terms. However, Harry's team said we are going to appeal. Well, the judge who looked at the appeal said they do have a case to answer for, and with RAVEC, who are the body that determined security for members of the royal family.
Prince Harry's public scolding, the unthinkable confrontation. It was a scene nobody saw coming. On June 27, 2025, in the heart of New York City, Prince Harry, a man who'd claimed to reject royal privilege, found his royal ego publicly crushed. He walked into the Nexus Global Summit expecting admiration, but what unfolded instead was a humiliating reality check broadcast live before hundreds of the world's brightest innovators. This wasn't just a misstep, it was a full-blown royal meltdown, exposing a truth he desperately tried to conceal. The arrogant claim that started it all the moment of embarrassment began the second Harry tried to claim the spotlight. During a tense fireside chat at the Nexus 2025 Global Summit, surrounded by over 350 passionate innovators, the Duke veered wildly off script. He delivered what many are now calling an ego-fueled comparison between his Archewell Foundation and the Nexus platform itself.
And it obviously is a grey area because obviously Harry's team would say, look, I am a high-profile member of the royal family, and we can't disagree with that.
No.
That I'm always going to be, a security vulnerable.
We don't just connect, we create, he boasted. We're not about talk, we're about transformation. His words, sharp and veiled in condescension, were utterly inappropriate for the setting. He implied Archewell was superior in reach and results. It wasn't just tone-deaf, it was provocative, leaving the audience stunned. This wasn't a royal gracing the stage. It was a man desperately seeking validation in the wrong place. But that wasn't the whole story. Rachel Gerol's masterclass takedown. Then came the response. Swift, calm, and devastating. Rachel Gerol, Nexus CEO and host of the summit, took the mic with the poise of a seasoned diplomat, but the firmness of a leader unafraid to speak truth to title. She addressed him only as Harry, refusing to use Prince. It wasn't an accident.
If he goes to a royal palace or the like, the security around places are incredible. So this is the problem for RAVEC. How do they manage Harry in such a way that he deems that his family and children will be safe here? He says he wants full-blown.
It was a deliberate stance. At Nexus, leadership is earned through service, not status, she said pointedly. The message was clear. You may be royalty elsewhere, but here, you're just another guest, subject to the same standards as everyone else. That small act, denying the title, hit harder than any tabloid headline. It wasn't just about names, it was about values. And what she said next would shock everyone. The uncomfortable truth about Archewell Rachel wasn't finished. With the eyes of the room fixed on her, she addressed Harry's boastful remarks head-on. We don't compare impact. We measure it by outcomes, not airtime.
Most people in this country are getting fed up with this kid refusing to take no for an answer, throwing his toys out of the pram every time he gets told he can't have something, and using not just his own money, stupidly, to pay loads of lawyers, but making sure that the taxpayer...
The sting was impossible to miss. Without raising her voice or showing anger, Gerol calmly dismantled Harry's attempt to elevate Archewell above Nexus. While Nexus boasts a network of over 5,000 global initiatives with tangible results, from youth housing to green tech investments, Archewell continues to struggle for clear wins. Observers later noted that Archewell's own website still features vague language about uplifting voices, but offers little in terms of measurable outcomes. Several projects mentioned since 2020 have either stalled, been quietly discontinued, or never moved beyond announcements.
My security comes first, and I should have it. It's not my decision. He was.
But he does have it. That's the point. When he comes here, he does get it, doesn't he? That's the whole ludicrous nature of the argument.
One attendee said bluntly, Harry came to compare resumes, and his was the shortest one in the room. And the camera caught his reaction. The body language of a man. Unraveling from the moment Gerol rejected the Prince title, cameras zoomed in on Harry's face. What they captured was striking. The polite smile was gone. His posture stiffened, his eyes darted. He scratched his neck, tapped his fingers, and visibly avoided Rachel's gaze. It was the body language of a man suddenly aware he was no longer in control. He was fidgeting like a student caught lying during an oral exam. Except this wasn't a classroom. It was an international stage.
Well, it's all gone a bit quiet on the Meghan front, hasn't it? I mean, it was only a few weeks ago that she was telling us that she's got all these projects on the go, can't wait to get started, all sorts of, movies that are going to be made, the Polo documentary that he's doing, the American Riviera orchard nonsense, with 50 bottles of jam that have been sent out.
This wasn't the calm and composed Duke often portrayed in friendly interviews. This was the real Harry, caught in the act of entitlement, visibly unraveling as the world watched. But his anger didn't stop there. Backstage fury and a predictable pattern. What happened offstage was equally telling. According to two insiders who spoke anonymously to US and British outlets, Harry was absolutely livid once the cameras stopped rolling. One source quoted him saying, "That was uncalled for. She humiliated me in front of the press." Another described him as pacing backstage, visibly red-faced, and refusing to engage with staff for several minutes.
There's a lot of talk and a lot of things in pipelines, which we may see the light of day. They need their Netflix deal, some things to go onto Netflix to cement the future plans for that. It's not easy for them trying to navigate their way around, trying to be viable. And for Harry,
to outside observers, his anger made no sense unless you understood that Harry expects admiration as default. He walked in assuming that his title, his charity, and his past would command automatic respect. But he encountered changemakers who weren't interested in royal origin stories. They wanted measurable impact, and Harry couldn't deliver. Rather than reflect or apologize, he lashed out in private. A classic pattern many critics say defines the Sussex PR strategy. Perform in public, complain in private. And the public's verdict was swift.
It's an inclusive sport, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, he says through gritted teeth. Yes, but obviously it's a high roller and people love all the sort of showbiz. But it will be, if it's Harry's doing it, it will be controlled within an inch of its life. So it will be a sort of warts and all documentary.
The public verdict and social media firestorm. Within hours, the internet made its verdict clear. While Harry's speech earned mockery, Rachel Gerol was hailed as a quiet hero. Hashtags like "Chahan Rachel was right," "Chahan no more Prince," and "Chahan Archie fail" began trending. Users praised her professionalism and courage to speak truth in a space often dominated by celebrity influence. Comments poured in. Gerol stood up for grassroots integrity against corporate charity fluff. Finally, someone told Harry the truth to his face. Meanwhile, Harry was dragged mercilessly.
Does Meghan, but it's a very hard one for them to control.
Yes.
Because a lot of people who don't believe their story.
Well, that's it. And also, when they sort of use their sources to tell People magazine, which seems to be the only place they sort of put their views through, that, of course, Harry was invited to the Duke of Westminster's wedding.
One viral post read, "He wants to be called a prince when it suits him, but throws the monarchy under the bus when it doesn't. Pick a lane." Even his fans struggled to defend him. The overall sentiment was clear. Harry had overstepped and been put in his place, rightly so. But this event marked a deeper shift.
William did his bit there yesterday, and by all accounts, was very well received with what he didn't leave early, and yet he's got a wife at home who's still battling cancer. He's saw it through and was very well received. But today he will be acting as an usher at his friend's wedding in Chester Cathedral. I think it.
America's shifting perception of the prince. The Sussexes had long counted on America to be their safe haven, the land where they could rewrite their narrative and build a new global empire. But that strategy now appears to be cracking at the seams. This Nexus episode wasn't just a bad moment, it was a turning point. For the first time, Harry was held accountable in real time, on American soil and by a respected American leader. The narrative shifted. He was no longer the sympathetic outsider. He was the entitled insider trying to dominate a stage built on merit, not monarchy. As one commentator put it, the U.S. welcomed Harry with open arms, but now he's reminding people why the palace pushed him out. Even typically neutral voices noted the significance. Piers Morgan, unsurprisingly, erupted on social media. Entitled, arrogant, and thin-skinned. Finally, someone gave him the truth, and it wasn't the palace. This wasn't about royalty anymore. It was about reputation. And Harry's was visibly unraveling, not in private tabloids, but on global, respected platforms.
And I keep saying this to say sorry to the rest of the royal family. He will be persona non grata at occasions like this in Chester.
Absolutely right. Rupert, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good weekend. Rupert Bell there talks about royal correspondent.
In the end, what truly stung was what Harry lost that day and may never get back. Respect. Respect from his peers. Respect from global leaders. And perhaps worst of all, the respect of the public who once believed in his story of transformation. He claimed he left the royal family to be free, pursuing purpose. Yet, when finally given a stage to lead with impact, he chose ego over empathy, titles over teamwork, and self-promotion over service. Rachel Gerol reminded the world of something Harry seemed to forget. Real leadership is earned, not inherited, not married into, not branded. And so, on June 27, 2025, in front of some of the most brilliant minds shaping the future, Prince Harry learned that lesson the hard way. On stage, on camera, in public.